What's up, nation? AJ Riley here with a special guest, Dylan Bear, a Chicago homer for our latest episode of Straight Shootin. Dylan is filling in for Matt, who is out of town still. He will be with us on our next show. We've got a packed show for you tonight of baseball because, Dylan, it is opening day week, a day that we thought would never get here because of the lockout that occurred December 2nd. I personally believe that opening day should be a national holiday, but I digress. I'm excited to have you here, Dylan, to talk about baseball. So let's
Thank
just
you.
jump right into it. You're wearing your Homer hat, the Chicago White Sox. How excited are you for this upcoming season?
Ironically, not as much as I guess you would think. Like, we'll talk about the division later. That's not a primary concern. It's that I guess just a general mentality I always have is going to be a win now attitude. If you are not contending for a title, you are doing nothing. And the problem is that especially with the way the White Sox season ended, getting just blitzkrieged by Houston and then losing as many people as we have without any real major marquee signings, it's concerning. And managerial leadership doesn't help. The decision kind of took the wind right out of the sails. Like, to be fair, if I had AJ Hinch instead,
Oh, yeah,
I'd be much more excited. I'm
of
sure you
course.
actually are.
I am,
I like
actually.
the expectation is just so high that like 95 wins in a divisional round ousting is not good enough. And that feels like what's going to happen again. And that's that. So I should be more excited, but like I have dreams in my head that I just don't think will be fulfilled.
Yeah, and that's I'm with you on that, right? Like for me, I'm a championship or bust kind of guy always, and I've had to live through the purgatory that is the Detroit Tigers since 2014. And then before last season, we kind of had AJ Hinch fall right into our lap. Thank you very much, Jerry Reinsdorf. Like just amazing, right? Amazing for us. And you're right. It does breed a bit of excitement for us because we have young stars like you have as well that are ready to kind of take the mantle of Detroit baseball and be exciting for the fans. Um, is there anything that you are excited about though this season? Like what are you most excited for with the season starting April 7th, this upcoming Thursday?
The things I'm most excited for sadly aren't even related to my team, to be honest.
That's okay.
It's a lot more of like the actual changes that happened. Like this lockout kind of spurned a lot of introspection, you would hope,
Mhm.
within the sport. I mean, there not only do you have the universal DH, thank God, that's finally
Are
happening.
you not a fan of pitchers hitting?
It's not even that. It's just that, like, at some point, it's the specialization of sports. So, unlike a lot of individuals who wanted the universal DH because, like, oh, pitchers suck at hitting, like, I think that there was an actual strategy to it. I understood the reason why that was the case, but because you no longer have it where you have a lot of jack of all trades players, a lot of times when you start out, even in like travel all the way up through high school, college, and then or minors, and then to here, you're so specialized that pitchers just no longer give a no, give.
Good catch.
I have to learn. I have to learn. It's my first time.
Look at
They
that.
just
Good
don't
catch.
care about hitting anymore. It's not a point of pride.
Oh, for sure.
And on top of that, I mean, the reason why strikeouts are partially are so high is because guys are throwing heaters when they're like 33 years old, topping out 95 higher, and the techniques are just so intricate now that like it's just not interesting to watch. And so because of that evolution, it was an inevitability, whether it was for strategy reasons because you didn't like seeing pitchers hit, or because guys just like aren't interested in it anymore. So
Yeah, there's definitely that specialization. And, I'm baseball purist at heart, but also am not upset about a universal DH. I think it is a good move. It does, looking from a labor standpoint, create jobs in the National League for players, right? And so I think it is a good move, and that is something that's going to change the strategy of the game in the National League for sure. Going to make things more consistent as we move into playoff baseball and World Series as well. Any other changes that through this CBA that have got you excited?
It's not. I don't know if I'm excited. Apprehensive. Not. That's not even the term either. I don't trust owners. I don't trust anyone who makes over $1 million. That's just my nature.
So you don't trust
But,
players either. That's what you're saying.
but
You don't.
in a
You
way,
don't.
yeah. I mean,
You don't trust
everybody
the
was in bad
workforce. You
faith
don't
this
trust the
offseason.
labor. That's what you're saying. That's what I hear you saying. I'm not sure.
Yeah, yeah. But so the thing that I guess I'm curious to see is like, are these changes to service time really tangibly going to help, specifically with the Tigers, right? Like,
Right.
is Torkelson really? Are you going to see him more than just a stint at the end of the year in September? Is this incentive for draft picks really going to move the meter? I'm cynically going to say no, but I hope that's not the case. I have players in my own system, like Ioannis Cespedes' brother, Yolakwi, I think is his first name, who just like you talk about air yards in football, the air yards on what he hits, it just goes so far. He's got
Right.
such power to him. I'd love to see him in the outfield, but like service time was kind of the sticking point that didn't seem to be resolved in the way that I would have liked. And so I'll be waiting in bated breath to see if it actually works out or not.
So I think that there's actually a lot of benefit to bringing up a Cespedes, to bringing up a Torkelson, to bringing up a Green, especially if you think that they're going to have an impact immediately. Because if they are on the opening day roster and they finish in the top 3 of Rookie of the Year voting, there's compensatory draft picks that are going to be offered to those teams. Um, but if you manipulate their service time and they come up in say May, where you try to get that extra year out of them, and they still finish in the top 3 of Rookie of the Year voting, then they get the full year's worth of service time. So, from a player's perspective, that manipulation of service time is hopefully, we would think, a thing of a past of the past. And so I think that they've come to a really good agreement. Again, they're going to start with the runner on second base in extra innings, which
I
I'm
love
sure
that.
you're a proponent of because you hate baseball. But
That's not it. It's that there is a speed factor that the sport needs to resolve, and that does it. And again, and this is the thing that I love the most, is that when it matters, that isn't relevant. So what's the issue,
well,
really?
and the speed thing, yes, but and I've said on here multiple times that I think it's more of a branding and a marketing issue than it even is a pace of play
We
issue.
will not agree on that.
And that's fine. We don't have to agree on it, but it's also not something that we are going to get into tonight because we just simply do not have time. But here's the bottom line, right? Of this segment number 1, bottom line, baseball is back. Thursday, we have a number of games. Looks like there's about 9 games that are going to be played starting from 105 all the way to 9:40 Eastern time. We got the Red Sox and the Yankees to open up, the Brewers and the Cubs, the Mets and the Nationals, the Guardians, formerly known as the Indians, against the Royals, the Mariners at the Twins, Pirates at the Cardinals, Reds at the Braves, Astros at the Angels, Padres at the Diamondbacks. And that is your slate of opening day, official April 7th opening day games. And with that slate, Dylan, it involves a little bit of our divisional teams, right? They're
Mhm.
playing on Thursday. They have the off day on Friday. They pick up on Saturday. But I want to get into a little AL Central breakdown and how we think these teams are going to fare this season. Now, what we have is we have these matchups. The White Sox are coming to Comerica Park and playing the Tigers starting on Friday.
Mhm.
The Cleveland Guardians are going to Kansas City on April 7th and playing the Kansas City Royals. And then the Seattle Mariners are moving or are traveling to Minnesota to take on the Twins also on Thursday, as previously mentioned.
Mhm.
Now, How do we think things are going to shake up in the AL Central this year? And I love that our teams are kicking off the season against each other. I
I
love
don't.
it.
I
I
don't
love it.
because there's going to be some unnecessary juice if this goes a 1-2 fashion against me. I can't imagine the negativity slash positivity in inverse fashions that'll happen if the Tigers show out, especially against what is presumed to be the division winner. Unlike
And
going
predicted
into
by USA Today to be the division winner at 90 wins this season.
for the Sox at 90, that is what I'm talking about. 90 wins is not good enough. It's just not. But you threw me off with that. I don't like
Sorry.
that number. But
Why don't you like that number? What number do you want it to be?
so, I mean, in ideal terms, we're looking at like 96, 98, 100 is just not going to happen with the pitching staff that we have. So I would say like between 96 and 98. Being at 90 means that you're on the lower tier and that you're going to wind up having to face the number one seed, whoever that winds up being.
So
And I
let me
just,
let me throw this out to you. According to this same projection by USA Today, there's only one team that got over 98 wins, and that's the Los Angeles Dodgers at 101. The
right.
next closest team was the Atlanta Braves at 94. So no other divisional winner
Huh,
they have higher than 94 wins other than the Los Angeles Dodgers, which, there it's a prediction, right? It's
right.
very difficult to predict 162 games. But let me run down how they predict the AL Central, and then we can kind of spitball off of that. They've got your White Sox at number 1, 90 and 72. Minnesota finishing second. They unloaded Josh Donaldson's contract.
Yep.
They also traded Isaiah Kiner Falefa to uh, the Yankees with Donaldson to bring back Gary Sanchez and Gio Urshela. So they have them finishing second at 83 and 79. Detroit finishing third at 80 and 82. Kansas City at 75 and 87. And then the Cleveland Guardians at 74 and 88.
Hmm.
I like it. But that 3-game lead by Minnesota, I'm going to go out on a limb and say the Tigers are going to actually finish in second place.
I agree.
I think they're going to finish in second place. I like the 80 wins. I think that they're going to at least get to 81, right? I mean, when you're predicting them that at 80 and 82, you're basically saying they're a 500 club.
Right.
Because one game either way, they're a 500 club, right? And we haven't seen 500 baseball in Detroit in a long time. So that's exciting. But I think, and maybe this is the, Homer slappy in me. I don't think the Minnesota Twins are 3 games better than us. And I especially don't think that they're 3 games better than us if not Fulmer, but Torkelson and Green are up the entire year. And I think those guys are going to come into their own. Detroit had 2 guys on the most underrated players list that MLB put out this year. They
Hmm.
had Jamer Candelario at third base as one of the at third base. He's the
Oh,
most underrated. And Robbie Grossman as well in the outfield as an underrated player. They kind of went positionally, so catcher,
right.
just one person per position. So those 2 Tigers made it. I looked,
Huh.
no White Sox on the list, man.
It's hard to be a division leading team with all these expectations and
Sure,
have it someone who's underrated.
it is. It is. It is for sure. But I think the Central is going to be a fun race. I
I
mean,
disagree.
they've got the White Sox at 10 games ahead of the Tigers, which, yeah, they're better than the Tigers. I'm not going to sit here and say that the Tigers are going to compete for any type of wild card. But looking at this shaking out, it looks like you'd have, again, 3 teams from the AL East that would make it into the playoffs. They actually have Toronto winning the AL East, which is interesting.
Hey,
Um,
my man.
yeah, there you go. Your boy Vladdy, right? Um,
The
and so
boy.
So this AL Central, what do you think the key for your White Sox this year is?
So there was some attrition that happened across the team, specifically whenever the trade happened for Craig Kimbrell, and that's a lot of the reason why I'm just nowhere near as hyped because it felt like the White Sox had to trade down, like swung real hard to try to win last year. That's what that move was. There's no other way around it. And you didn't even get out of the divisional round. And that's just, it just hits the handbrake so hard to where, yeah, I'm very excited that Eloy is going to be actually healthy and that the
Right.
outfield may not be just dreadful, even though Andrew Vaughn is dealing with an injury now because of course. But there are certain players on this roster that I don't want to see, and they need to be offloaded to where I feel they're going to underwhelm. Like I think Tim Anderson's going to have exactly the same season he had last year. There's no way. I just don't see that happening. He was almost completely healthy the whole time. Very consistent player for us. I mean, he's phenomenal. He's my favorite White Sox by far, but I
Right.
just don't expect that level of production out of him. And I think very sincerely, Yohan Moncada needs to be moved. The fact that he wasn't this offseason is like part of the reason I'm just not very excited about it. I don't like him at that position. And frankly, if we hadn't have decided to trade Kimbrel, I don't think that Moncada would even be on this roster right now.
You're saying trade for Kimball because you gave up Nick Madrigal
Right.
to the
Madrigal
Cubs.
would be taking Moncada's place and we would have shipped him off. But because we decided to do the win now thing that just completely failed, now we are stuck with a batter in the lineup that just is not up to par with everyone else around
Interesting that you think that about Moncada.
For pretty much since his start, he is one of my lesser favorite of these younger players. I just his batting. I know batting average is kind of a stat that's being repudiated against lately, but like he's been sub 250. He's been oft injured pretty much the entire time. He's not consistent or reliable enough for me to be fair, having done that in the first place and gotten rid of the guy who was clearly going to replace him this season. But that's how it is. That's what happens when you hire a senior citizen as your manager and then you decide to do win now last year and it blows up in your face.
I
You
mean,
do kind of a post-mortem after this period is over for the White Sox, and if they don't accomplish everything that they were supposed to, that trade is going to be why. And before that, the manager hire is going to be why.
yeah, what's interesting to me though, I mean, Moncada's still a 4-WAR player. He had 263 last year, 14 home runs, 61 RBIs. Where'd he hit in the lineup? Top 3, top 2?
Trying to remember. I mean, I don't believe so. That's because Anderson leads off, and Abreu's third. Eloy
What?
was second, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe
Or
Moncada hit
Robert
about.
was in there too. I don't know. The problem was the injuries were so bad last year. There wasn't
Yeah.
a consistent lineup
Sure.
to where I frankly, I don't remember. I think he was sixth, if I remember right, but I could be wrong.
I mean, he's really showing out this season in spring training, hitting $150. So, I mean, really showing out. Projected to hit 270 this year by Baseball Reference. So we'll see. We'll
That's a
see. I
good bet
mean,
to take the under on.
you would take the under on 270. I might mark you down for that and see
Absolutely.
if you're actually correct about that. So like it sounds to me, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds to me like you have, we'll say, a cautious optimism about your White Sox this year.
Right. The way I make it sound is that like the world's on fire,
You
but I
do
don't.
make it sound like the world's on fire.
That's the
Like,
vibe. That's
woe is me. I have the best team in the AL Central for the last 3 years. That's what you
I
sound like.
I'm not here for divisional titles though, and I actually don't think it's going to be much of a struggle, to be honest, for the White Sox to win the division. I don't. I don't
Barring
understand.
some kind of catastrophic injury.
And even then, I don't know. The team is talented enough that like if Eloy gets hurt again, yeah, that may be a bit of a setback. But the fear also is that I am dead certain that at the trade deadline, if something like that happens, we're going to do another Kimbrel type trade and get rid of more young assets.
Maybe. I just my concern for you guys is your pitching. Like
Oh, yeah. It was
like
so phenomenal last year too. That's why it's so frustrating. They were great in the regular season last year.
Yeah, I mean, and not concerned in the sense that, like, you're not going to be, like, top of the division or anything like that, but, I mean, the problem with pitching and young pitching is we talk about that injury. What happens if one of those guys that you have now goes down, right? What happens if you lose a Giolito, a Velasquez, a Dylan Cease, right?
Yeah.
If one of those guys goes down, that hurt. I mean, when the Tigers, it was either 13 or 14, but when the Tigers had that dominant rotation, there was one of those years in there, 12, 13, or 14, where they only used 6 starting pitchers the entire year. And it wasn't 14 because JV got hurt, but
Mm.
6 starting pitchers. Like, that's impressive. And that's
Yeah.
really, I mean, that really speaks to how good your, you know,
Right. Right.
rotation is. So, like, that's the thing that I mean, you've got one of the best closers in the game in Hendricks. You back that up with, you made a trade for Kendall Graveman this offseason, correct?
Yes. Yep.
And then you also added, um, is Kimbrel is not listed here. He's not on the team, is he?
Hmm.
No, he is. He is listed. He was buried. But yeah,
I was
so
about
I
to
mean,
say, what's going on here?
so I mean, Kendall Graveman, Liam Hendricks, and Craig Kimbrel. I mean, pretty good bullpen as well.
Yeah.
So for you, I think a lot of it, yeah, you could lose a hitter here or there, but you got to really make sure that that pitching is on par. And then that brings us to the best team, the Detroit Tigers, right? Projected to be at 80 and 82 by USA Today. We
You're
clearly have the better of the two managers who you should have arguably had. And I remember that day and how just despondent you were that Tony La Russa was hired when AJ Hinch did not have a job. And I sat
Mhm.
there and I said, thank you very much, Chicago White Sox. We appreciate that. We'll send the gift basket to the South Side because it was just an amazing thing to see what AJ Hinch did last year. And now it's even more exciting to see what he's going to build on this year from last year.
Yeah.
So I can't wait until April 8th. I think that it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be great. We've got Eduardo Rodriguez, who's going to be our opening day
Yeah. The guy
starter.
from the Reds, right?
Red Sox, yeah,
Oh,
from the Red Sox. And
right.
then who have they named the White Sox opening day starter for y'all yet?
I think it's Gio again. He was last year.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. You might as well. And hey, 3-game series to get the season started between our two favorite teams, and we're gonna
Mhm.
beat you.
Yeah, I
And you're not gonna hear
I
the end of
fully
it.
expect that.
The Tigers will be in first place by the first weekend. The
I
first
expect a
weekend,
very slow start. I do. I think y'all are going to start out like a mercurial start where you're going to be
maybe.
just bombing.
Hey, I would be here for it. Let me just put it that way. And Dylan, that's going to lead us into our final segment of the night. It's something that a little game that Matt and I play where I shoot you a yes or no question.
Okay.
And you just kind of give me your opinion, yes or no. And we give me some reasons why. We'll go back and forth with that. And then we will close out the night, my friend. All right. First one, yes or no. Tony La Russa will still be the manager of the White Sox after 2022.
No. No way. It already felt like it was about a 2-year time frame for him as it is, in the type of public pressure that's going to inevitably occur when I mean, I would like to think that everybody is probably expecting another divisional round ousting. So let's say that happens again to a Toronto or Red Sox, Yankees, whomever. That is, he's out. He's gone. You can't do that twice, 2 years in a row with the type of roster that we have, with how far in that we are choosing to destroy our future for a chance at winning, and you are clearly not capable of it, especially when your replacements could be in division. And let's use a hypothetical where the Tigers are going into, let's even say August, and it's a
Mhm.
difference of like 5 or 6 games. Do you really think that White Sox people are going to be happy with the fact that this young, arguably maybe in the future more talented team than ourselves with a better manager are performing as well as they are, and we're sitting here with the retirement home, and the only thing that we get out of it are divisional round hats that we're just going to throw in the garbage or throw them onto I-94. I don't know.
So that's what it's interesting, because you would think that hiring a guy that's a 3-time World Series champion, a 6-time pennant, a 4-time manager of the year, he's already in the Hall of Fame. 5,259 wins all time. And yet you're like, eh.
It's phenomenal that he did that 30 years ago. It is 2022.
Come on. I mean, the guy started in what, 1979? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Took his first job. And do you know who that first job was?
I promise I'm acutely aware of it.
Who is it?
It was the White Sox.
Oh, yes, it was. Then he goes to the Athletics. Then he has his reign in St. Louis. And now he's back with the home team.
I just think it's hilarious that Matt and everybody was freaking out saying, "Oh, calm down. You don't know if it's bad." How right have I been about this? Every fear I've had is inevitably coming true. It was the easiest thing to predict in the world. It was.
Yeah, and what did I tell you when they made that hire? Do you remember what I said?
The window. I remember. I'll always remember the window aspect of it, because that was the first time I really analyzed the fact that, like, this really is shorter than I think it is.
I told you, the window of opportunity just closed a little bit.
Yeah. From about what should have been 4 to 5 years down to 2, 3 at most.
Yep. Sorry. I really am. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm not, because I have AJ Hinch.
For your benefit.
Like, it worked out great for me. It's one of those things, like, sorry, not sorry, in a way, because I'm glad I don't have Tony La Russa, and I do have AJ Hinch as my manager. Let's go to the second yes, no, Dylan. Yes or no, Carlos Correa will be a Twin after this season. He signed a 3-year, $105.3 million deal with the Minnesota Twins with an opt-out after Season 1 and Season 2. Will he be a Twin in 2023?
No chance. Let's put it this way. If you were thinking about this from his agent's perspective, what would be the purpose of having not 1, but 2 player opt-outs on such a short deal? We heard the entire time that Correa was looking for a long-term deal, over $300 million. The Tigers, I believe, offered $275. And instead, clearly that was not going to happen with the market, especially with the lockout being what it was. So they decide to go the safe route, get a ton of money, have those opt-outs in place. And it's also on a team that, like, has made pretty weird decisions, to be honest. And especially with the Tigers being as young as they are, and if what we think is going to happen, where the Tigers will supersede them, then what is the motivation for them to want for Correa and his agent to stay on a sinking ship rather than go back into the market without the looming of the lockdown in place, and then he can get the deal that he wanted just a year later?
So highest average annual for an infield player. And all this is, just what keeps coming back to me is, this is a State Farm contract. This is an Aflac contract. Like, it's insurance. That's what it is. Yeah. If Correa gets hurt this year, guess what? He's got the highest average annual salary next year too, and then he can opt out. But if he has a great season, he's no longer a Twin. Wholeheartedly agree with you. Here's number 3, buddy. Yes or no, the Dodgers will win the NL and be in the World Series again. Now, the Dodgers have been in the World Series 3 out of the last 5 years, winning one of them. With all the acquisitions that they made, most notably Freddie Freeman going to play first base in LA.
Mm-hmm.
Will the Dodgers reign supreme again in the NL?
Considering how stacked that this roster was even last season, and now that you have the potential for the DH having it where you have another literally the name is there, but an actual designated hitter that you could go into your deep roster and just pluck whatever talent you decide. on top of the fact that he sure, yeah, they did lose Corey Seager, but then you replace him with, and that, maybe he's a bit older, but arguably an equally talented player. Freddie Freeman's very highly touted. They're the best roster. They clearly are not afraid of spending money. They have a deep team that will benefit greatly from this change that other teams within the NL will not be able to take advantage of. I don't see a reason why not, other than if San Diego decides to actually fulfill their potential like I thought they would last year and they bottomed out. So I don't have any
I
faith
was
in
waiting
them
for it.
anymore. Now, on top of the fact that who really thinks that San Francisco is going to surprise like they did. That's the way that that organization goes, up down every
Mhm.
year. So this year they'll go 72 wins, then the next year they'll do 90 again. So yeah, I would say that's a safe bet, especially for betting purposes. It's either them or the Braves, so I would definitely say the Dodgers.
And the only thing that's going to hold them back is, like I said, with the White Sox, is going to be their pitching, right?
Yeah.
They have Walker Bueller, who's going to be great. They have, and now I'm blanking on the name, Julio Urias,
Oh yeah.
the lefty who shows flashes. They have
Mhm.
a deep staff, but what's going to be of Clayton Kershaw? Is he going to be able to stay healthy with the amount of innings that his arm has already logged? It's going to be very difficult to say. I mean, yeah, if I was a betting man, I'd definitely put my money on the Dodgers to be back in the World Series. But that is why they play the game, and that's why there's 162 of them, because it is a long season. So too long for some people, but it is a long season, and there is way too much that can happen, and it's going to be exciting to see how that all rolls out this Thursday. Dylan, I want to thank you so much for filling in for Matt. Matt, we obviously wish you the best and hope that everything is going well for you where you are at. We are going to leave that as an undisclosed location, but
Somewhere in
congrats to
space.
you. I hope it was fun. Dylan, thanks again here at Straight Shootin'. I'm
Whoa.
AJ. He is Dylan Bear. We will see you guys next or this Thursday coming up. We're going to talk hopefully a little bit of Masters, because that's going to be kicking off Thursday, and then obviously get into some more baseball talk as well. So for Dylan Bear, I am AJ Riley, and we will see you next time.